The top of an ancient tower was shown, with countless tiny dragons flying all around, with one large elder dragon asleep atop some kind of throne. An emperor ruling from on high. He calls his own army from the sky. The time to fight is nigh. Rage declared with his usual ominous echo as the elder dragon woke up and jumped down from its throne, roaring as its minions flew outward as everything went black. Everyone was left in awe at the opening. Whoa! That was so cool! Ruby cried out, before looking to her fellow team leader. John, you saw that, right? It's like he's sitting on a throne, she said excitedly. I know, right? And its horns look like it's wearing a crown fit for a king. John geeked out as well. Don't forget how epic that then music was. Yang said. Yeah. Presentation definitely gets a pass. I think we're definitely gonna like this monster. Coco agreed. Don't be too hasty, students. Remember, many of the most beautiful monsters had far darker undertones. Ashbin reminded them. A hunter then rushed at the dragon with a greatsword while the beast jumped down from its throne again. Let's talk then, my fellow hunters, Guanzorumu. A true regal powerhouse, a king in his prime and one of the most impressive and deadly elder dragons to exist. This is the Emperor Conqueror dragon and he has his own entire kingdom, staffed with soldiers at his beck and call, and no hunter has ever returned from facing him. Rage declared as the hunter fought the beast, evading its charge and diving attacks, before getting a few hits in. Okay, now that is a title. Just imagine what it would have had to do to get a title like that. Whatever it did must have been next level badass. Neo said. Yeah, top 5 titles we've heard so far, easy. Roman agreed. But did I hear that right? That it has its own soldiers at its beck and call? Glenda asked in concern. No, surely he must be exaggerating something or taking it out of context. How would he even know this if no one has returned from facing it? Winter questioned, trying to deny the information she was just given. They may have gotten word out about it somehow. But if he's not exaggerating, that means this creature is intelligent enough to command an army. And if it's that intelligent, what else might it be capable of plotting? What does it plan to do with that army? Ironwood asked, mind already going to the worst-case scenario of the dragon leading an assault on Atlas. Gotta say, though, Rage does a good job describing it. It really does look like an emperor and a powerhouse. Its underside with all those sharp spikes could probably shred you like a cheese grater. Right down to Parmesan. Nora declared as she eyed the creature, everyone scooching away from her. The elder dragon then made a huge circle of fire around it, which then exploded as it leapt back. But to go on the journey of this mighty beast is to first go to a journey that will lead you to the cloud viewing fortress. As the name might imply, it is a mighty structure, wrought by the ancient civilization, towering above, it is colossal. Rage declared as an image of this tower was shown from the top where 2 hunters stood, where it looked more like an entire city. Stretching as far as the eye can see, in its prime, would have housed thousands. Used as a research base to, cloud view. Rage elaborated as a cloudy gray sky was then zoomed in on with an ominous choir in the background. Yep. It's a cloud. Rage confirmed as the cloud was zoomed in on a bit more. Everyone's jaws dropped as they saw the enormous structure. That's a simple tower. It looks like an entire settlement. It almost looks like it could rival Atlas. Cinder said incredulously. At least in terms of size. Not quite as fancy, but quantity matches where quality falls behind. Crow agreed. Pyrrha gasped at this. I don't think this is a simple tower. I think this is the tower. The one that enraged the elder dragons and led to the Great Dragon War. She said in shock. We already knew it was huge, but to think it was this massive, I'm amazed there are any Kushala Deora left after they erected the tower using their parts. Blake said in equal disbelief. But I'm guessing, because he brought it up, that this is where Guanzorumu lives. But why would it want to live in a tower made of its dead brethren? That'd be like me living in a mansion that was built by Faunus slaves, and they all died constructing it. I'd want nothing to do with a place like that. Adam wondered. The fortress-like tower was then focused on again. And more entirely to observe, document, even capture, and catalog the most capable flyers in airborne monsters. It really is a testament to the sheer both arrogance and strength of the ancient civilization that they could even think to build such a monument to what was then humanity's dominance. Well, that dominance, of course, came to an end with the Great Dragon War and the ruining of all they held dear, but what remained was, well, their constructions. Rage explained as the hunter was shown fighting the Elder Dragon once again. And in this case, the cloud-viewing fortress became home to really quite a cool little flying wyvern by the name of Ejiyurasu, the second key component in examining our target today. Rage said as an image of the tiny flying wyvern appeared on the screen with a ding. Many of them had grown uneasy being reminded of the horrors associated with that tower. But those feelings quickly went away when they saw the Ejiyurasu. Especially the girls. Oh my gosh. They're so tiny and cute. It's like if Spy could fly. Weiss said in awe. Yeah, I'd definitely live in a tower like that to be around those little guys. Ilya agreed. You better save a room for me. I'm not missing out on those cuties. Emerald added. I want one, too. I already want an army of monster pets when we get back, so one of them would be perfect if they already live like an army. RWBY said. Maybe, but how exactly do they tie into Guanzorumu? I have a feeling, however, it will make us either hate them or Guanzorumu itself. Summer pointed out in concern. Rage then continued to observe the diminutive flying creature. This is honestly quite, again, a very pretty-looking little flying wyvern, and you can see there is just a little touch of the Elder Dragon himself here, despite having no relation biologically. There is that little 3 golden prong on the wings, which is nice. There's even what looks like a little helmet on the crest adorning the eyes, the golden ridges crowning up at the top. It makes them look like soldiers. And indeed, that's what they are. The host said as the focus was pulled back to the fight. Once he mentioned the head crest resembling a helmet, I was able to see it in the soldier motif. Ren admitted. That just makes it cuter. They're little guys going out and doing their job and defending their little kingdom. And the fact they match their elder dragon without being related is a crazy coincidence, but it's super cute. Velvet cooed. It's possible that they developed and evolved alongside each other, so it's possible they developed to look similar to Guanzorumu for purposes of better recognizing each other and gain each other's trust by having a similar appearance. The unknown is rather scary, so it's comforting to see something familiar. Penny theorized. The hunter somehow charged up his greatsword while the dragon unleashed devastating fire power. See, the Kudviewing fortress is home to a great nest of them, a flock. Usually timid, they keep to themselves, peaceful and alone. However, they are quite capable for their size. Their ability to spew flames is incredibly impressive and their strength as well, ant-like in its proportion to their weight, effortlessly lifting hunters, and, indeed, that will come in handy later on. This is the guardian snake wyvern, despite being a flying wyvern and, well, it guards this fortress well, but it doesn't do it of its own volition. No, this is where Guanzorumu comes back in. Rage said as Guanzorumu got off its throne and roared once again. So they're soldiers for Guanzorumu. That's so cute. RWBY said, before frowning a bit. But that means they probably go into battle first and get killed. Not as big of a fan as that. She said. It's how most things in nature operate. The creatures that follow a dominant member of their pack do the majority of the work, no matter how hazardous, but the dominant one usually reaps the advantages. It's how Salem has operated all these years. Hazel told her. That should just show you how wrong it is, Cinder said. But at least the dominant member gives protection to the weaker members when a bigger threat comes around. Hopefully this is the same. Glinda pointed out. The hunter rushed forward while dragging his greatsword along the ground. Imagine a great fight, a drone fight, like Great Jagras and his Jaglings, or, well, Velocidrome with his Velocipede, or even the Great Azuchi and his Little Azuchi. That type of classic setup, but on an Elder Dragon scale. See, the Ejiyurasu are subservient to Guanzorumu. They heed his commands, and he has many. Different roars, different pitches, different intonations, he will quite literally coordinate them on the battlefield. Rage explained as Guanzorumu roared, before spewing flames from his mouth along with a handful of Ejiyurasu that flew in a circle around him, creating a defensive ring of fire around him to keep the hunter at bay. Such is the pride of this monster, that until you reduce him to half of his natural vitality, he will simply will his slaves to attack in his stead. The host said as images of the Elder Dragon and its soldiers were shown side by side. James was shocked as he heard all the different ways the Elder Dragon commanded its soldiers. It really is intelligent enough to command them. It really is like a general of its own army. But what are its tactics and strategies like? Would its army be capable of defeating another? He asked, dreading what would happen if this beast and its subordinates came to Atlas. Easy there, Tin Man. You're gonna pop an artery or blow a gasket. At least the way Rage tells it, it doesn't seem to leave the tower and people have to seek it out. My answer, stay the hell away from the tower. Roman tried to calm the general down. I take more issue with the fact Rage referred to the Ejiyurasu as slaves. Penny said with a frown. I agree. Part of the reason the Elder Dragons went to war with the ancient civilization was because they enslaved other dragons, so for Guanzorumu to do it makes him a hypocrite as well as a monster who keeps slaves. Blake agreed, narrowing her eyes at the Elder. Indeed. It's sounding less like a regal emperor and more like an atrocious tyrant. Pyrrha said, glaring as well. An Ejiyurasu then swooped down and seized a hunter in its claws, flying to the edge of the tower. And attack, they will. Flamethrowers from on high, they will swoop from the sky, grab unwary hunters caught off guard and quite literally send them careening off the edge of the fortress itself, falling far, falling fast, falling hard, to a guaranteed grisly end. Terrifying, but really cool, like all the really neat large monsters that rely on weaker small monsters, but on an Elder Dragon level. Rage said as the hunter was flung off the tower and plummeted to his doom. Everyone winced and looked away when they saw the hunter flung off the tower. Ugh. Again, with being super descriptive about super gory details. Is this guy a sadist or something? Emerald asked. That poor hunter. Velvet said sadly. Yeah, that's definitely not how I want to go out. Yang agreed, looking to Ashbin. Good thing you had us practice landing strategies, Professor. She added, looking to Ashbin. I try to do all I can to prepare you for the tribulations of being huntsmen and huntresses. But I'm not sure even our landing strategy training could save some of us from that. Ashbin said grimly. I won't lie and say that a dragon with its own soldiers isn't cool, but again, this is an Elder Dragon, walking natural disasters. Does it really need any backup? Crow questioned. Thank the gods I wasn't the only one thinking that. Winter said. A new hunter with a greatsword somehow lit it aflame and rushed in at Guanzorumu. But, of course, we're just getting started. To address my earlier implication, slave might be too harsh, though they definitely unquestioningly follow orders. It is somewhat of a symbiotic relationship, one where two animals mutually benefit by, well, either tolerating or protecting the other's existence. In this case, well, these little guys are simply allowed to continue living. They're not preyed upon by the Guanzorumu. He doesn't wipe them out. He allows them to retain their original nest that he has now claimed for himself. A new ruler in the cloud-viewing fortress. And, indeed, what is a ruler without a throne? Rage explained as the hunter landed hits on Guanzorumu while avoiding its attacks, before the elder was shown relaxing on the throne like rocks. So, that's it? He just lets them live? Doesn't give them protection from any bigger predators or anything? That still sounds more like slaves than a symbiotic relationship. Coco said disapprovingly, glaring at the beast along with most of the other women. Well, it's still better than him eating them or chasing them out of their home. He could have always done that, Ren pointed out. The dragon then rose to his feet and roared at the hunters who showed up to face him. Yeah, I love that this just so happens to be a throne-like rock formation, and it really works. Him just relaxed, at ease, confident while sprawled out on it while the little guys attack you. It's pretty cool. And, indeed, the little guys do get to pick up of food that he leaves and, indeed, they will hunt for him, scout out and bring back prey. It's an alright setup, really, and well, they do fight for him at request. Rage finished up the subject of their symbiosis as the elder dragon breathed a stream of fire sweeping back and forth as he moved his head, the hunter barely avoiding it. Yeah, that is a bit of an insane coincidence, but still, you can't deny he does look awesome on that rock throne. John said. I can, and I will deny it. This guy's just a big meanie to those poor Ejiyurisu. Nora insisted. Seriously, it's the big and powerful one, but it still makes them kill food and bring it back to him, then just gives them scraps. This thing is the worst. Summer huffed. You are aware that this is basically what male lions do, right? The females do the hunting, but the males get first dibs. Adam pointed out. But at least the males fight off other males trying to take their territory and kill their cubs if they win. This guy's just a giant freeloader. Ilya countered. The elder dragon then slammed its body down to the floor to create a shockwave to try and push the hunter back. And that request is loud. One thing I should mention about Guanzorumu is that his roar is legendary. I'm talking louder than Laviant. Rage declared as a clip of Laviant roaring at a group of hunters was shown. You know, the largest monster. At least, in contention for such. But look at the size difference. A normal, kind of elder dragon-y size and shape versus Laviant. The host reminded everyone as a familiar clip of Laviant roaring while coiling around a volcano was shown, before showing it roar at the hunters again. Louder. Rage declared as everything went black, before showing the hunter fighting Guanzorumu again. I what? Imagine having to sustain that. High-grade earplugs don't even come close. You have to go beyond. Rage explained as the monster blasted the hunter back with its roar. Oh, gods, no. Both Velvet and Blake cried out, pinning down their animal ears. Why? Why can such a small dragon roar louder than basically the world serpent? Velvet whimpered. We can't have any of those on Remnant. Faunus would have ruptured eardrums in different kingdoms. Blake shrieked as well. And Weiss was no better as she still hadn't learned the lesson of not applying logic to monsters yet. But how? That's impossible. Laviant is so much bigger, so it has bigger lungs and larger, more developed and powerful vocal cords. There should be no way Guanzorumu should be able to produce anywhere near the same level of roars, let alone even greater ones. The heiress cried out as she tried to understand the science behind the roars. You're going to give yourself a headache or a hernia straining that much, Neo told her. The beast then charged forward as the hunter got out of the way. At any case, then, we have the setup, the battlefield, the army and the commander, and battle indeed is joined. And what a battle it is! RWBY said dramatically as epic music played to accompany the fight while the dragon lashed out violently in conjunction with its soldiers. Okay, you gotta admit, that theme music is epic. Yang cheered, several of the other teens nodding. Yeah, it is. My kind of tune right now. That choir is turning it up to 11. Crow agreed with his niece. And all the different instruments make it so intense. The drums and the violins are just awesome. Summer added. I could definitely see myself bopping to this every so often. Coco agreed. But I don't like the way its eyes are glowing. My prey instincts are screaming right now, Velvet said, clinging to Coco tightly. The Emperor Conqueror dragon then slammed the ground again and shattered it, sending chunks of earth into the air. It can fly fast, it can fly with serious force, those spreading wing membranes are very, indeed, capable. It has powerful claw attacks, slams, earth-breaking hits, and the general physicality you would come to expect from a high-tier monster of the frontier. Its scales are incredibly dense, hard and resistant to all sorts of damage. They are impact-absorbing, too, and allow him to take all but the mightiest of blows. They are also incredibly thermally insulating. And this is, well, a good job, because flame is his weapon. And not just your normal, everyday, run-of-the-mill flame, though he does control great gouts of it. He is golden fire, befitting of an emperor of his stature, running across his very wings. He is a sight to behold, blazing in his might and blazing in his fury. Rage declared as the hunter managed to make the beast fall to its side and attacked while it was vulnerable. So it hits hard and can take all the hard hits. I wonder how my hits would stack up, or how I'd handle its hits. Hazel wondered, eager at the idea of challenging the beast. You do remember all the little monsters that could throw you off the tower, right? Not even you are surviving that. Cinder reminded him. Yes, if we ever did have to fight one of those, we'd need at least one person on full-time watch to shoot down the Ijiyurisu if they tried to come in and attack us. Winter theorized. But it's not their fault. Guanzorumu makes them do bad things. I bet if he wasn't there, they'd be the best boys ever. RWBY defended the little flying wyverns. It's sad, but it happens sometimes, RWBY. If you want to defeat an enemy, you'll have to take care of their allies that try to stop you. Ashvin told her. The monster then stomped forward while letting out a massive roar to force back the hunters. As the battle rages on, his high-pitched roars, contrasting with his personal deep bellow as he controls the Ijiyurisu as they breathe fire, form spheres of wind and generally protect their master with everything they can. The roar from this guy can, well, send you rocking backwards, flying through the air. The wave of sound is simply that powerful. It will even combine its own power with that of its servants for destructive combo attacks. But eventually, if you weather this storm, you will reach, well, a much, much worse one. Rage said as Guanzorumu let out a furious roar, its eyes glowing a furious red as a group of Ijiyurisu panicked around it, before the elder dragon did a backflip and seized one of its minions in its jaws, crunching down on it and obliterating its former soldier in a splatter of blood. It then let out a massive roar as it suddenly surged with dragon energy with epic, but dread-inducing music played. Many were filled with dread after seeing the transformation of the elder dragon, but none more so than RWBY, Velvet and Neo, who cuddled close to their respective crushes. That music is terrifying, Velvet said fearfully. And he's using dragon energy now. That's when you know it's getting serious. Neo agreed shakily. But then, the resident cinnamon trio was horrified when they saw the Emperor Conqueror dragon snatch up and eat an Ejiyurisu. "No!" they all cried out. "But why? It was one of your allies? How could you?" Pyrrha wept. "This thing is pure evil. Take him down, hunter. Show no mercy." RWBY ordered furiously, through her tears. The beast was now somewhat larger, with its spikes having somehow grown out like spears as it spewed dragon energy from its mouth. Enraged. Furious. The audacity of these hunters to challenge one such as him boiling in his veins. Well, phase 2 begins, and with it, the dragon is truly unleashed. Flame becomes, well, just that, dragon element, and the Ejiyurisu are no longer safe, killing one effortlessly in a seething display of hate towards the hunter. They now all flee, leaving their former master to fight for himself, unaided. But aid is not needed, for in this dragon form, he is all-powerful. Up there in the top-tier echelons of Elder Dragon, just shy of that black dragon status, there is no creature to exist that he does not have at least a chance of beating in contest. Rage warned of the creature's true potential as it belted out an even deadlier roar and leaping into the air to fire an explosive sphere of dragon energy at the hunter. "Well, that is quite the power boost," Ren said, managing to speak through the feeling of dread causing a lump in his throat. "We already know the dragon element can be used as a form of steroid and that its power is incredibly destructive. I suppose it only makes sense." Penny said nervously as well. "Still, I can't believe how fast of a turn that was. 1 minute, he's letting his goons do all the work, but the next minute, he's putting in more work than a small army. He was hiding that much power all this time because he likely thought he didn't need it. This creature truly is a monster," Ironwood said in shock. The Emperor Conqueror dragon then charged forward towards its foe, determined to kill. His full destruction unleashed, everything before is enhanced, but now with dragon. It pumps through his flesh, his bones, his muscles, enhancing him physically, the earth-shattering blows even more so, shaking the cloud-viewing fortress, rumbling as boulders fall away and the structure grows ever more erratic. The red flowing over him, he is so very clearly changed, his wings a crimson cloak, his horns flushed with dragon, he takes on a much more sinister appearance, the Emperor corrupted, the Emperor fallen. Rage explained the changes as the creature continued its relentless assault. "Yeah, all that stuff makes it look like it came from hell," John said in fear. "And like it's looking for souls to send to hell," Emerald agreed nervously. "Or like it will just eat your soul itself," Ilya added, having already instinctively changed her colors to try and go invisible. But then, familiar tragic music began to play as the battle continued. "And eventually, he will fall. As you face tornadoes of dragon, as you face explosive bursts of energy, as you face a dragon enhanced with speed and strength, as you face every single trick he can think of to bring you down, eventually it will be him who is treated to that fate and you will write your name in the history books," someone said as something happened. Rage spoke in a solemn tone as a massive burst of dragon energy exploded from the dragon, surrounding the area as Guanzorumu struggled to keep itself upright, but eventually succumbed to its injuries and collapsed on its side, departing from the mortal plane of existence, the skies clearing as the beast's power faded permanently. However, despite the terror and anger many felt towards the beast, most of the adults couldn't help but feel bad for the monster. It truly is a shame. Just like Shantian and Daisafaroa, before it was corrupted and brought down by its own massive power. Winter said solemnly. Indeed. To be warped and turned rabid by its own power. It truly is like an actual ruler brining about its own demise, because of its power and letting itself be corrupted and consumed by that power. A tragedy almost as old as time itself. Ojban said, strong sympathy in his voice, thinking back to him and Salem and how their own power got to their heads and put them against each other. However, the fight was shown once again during Guanzorumu's enraged state. But it does not end there. Guanzorumu may be an aggressive, potently strong elder dragon, but he has a further form that takes it even further. Ruler Guanzorumu is something else entirely. Rage, declared as the empty arena, was shown, before several differently colored Ejiyurasu breathed out flames of dragon energy to make their ring of flames, which turned golden white with black and red lightning crackling around, before bursting outward to reveal a golden white Guanzorumu with flaming orange spikes, horns and wings looking like they were actually composed of fire. Stars were in the eyes of many of the students, but most particularly RWBY, Yang, and Nora. So cool! They all cried out together. Those white scales are so pretty! RWBY cried out. And its wings and spikes look like they're actually made of fire. That has to be in the top 5 most badass things ever. Yang added. And the fire mane. Don't forget the fire mane. Nora said excitedly, before gasping. Ooh. I wonder if I absorb enough electricity if I could make a thunder mane or something like that. She wondered. Well, you won't be trying anytime soon on my watch, young lady. Glinda immediately shut the idea down. This new, fiery version of the beast began to fight a huntress with ridiculous armor and weaponry. An extreme Guanzorumu, extreme individuals again, are basically variants turned up to 11. In his case, he takes on a very different form. Orange tinging his outward appearance, the spikes gaining flush of it, the wings much more boiling, like lava pattern across them, an almost mane of flame forming around his head, the eyes deep red. He is much more offensively inclined with golden energy pouring forth. And, indeed, instead of fire, then dragon, it combines them into a golden flame, which is one of the single potent elements in the entire monster world. And if that wasn't enough, he's even imbued his army, his Ejiyurasu, with the ability to breathe it, albeit slightly weaker, just like him. And it really is something you do not want to face, one of the hardest challenges in the entire frontier, but also one of the most impressive sights visually. This is Guanzorumu. His kingdom. His followers. And his strength. Rage finished as the extreme beast met its final rest. That is on a whole different level. This is just insanity now. Blake cried out. How is it even possible? How can there actually be a version of this monster that's stronger than the first version? What are these things that they can get this kind of power from the tiniest of changes? Adam questioned in shock. Well, at least this one is nicer to his Ejiyurasu and shared its power with them. This actually feels symbiotic. Summer said. That just makes it even more insane that it can somehow give its power to other creatures. Weiss said, before noticing her fellow Elysians being rather quiet. Winter? General Ironwood? Are you all right? I thought you'd have something to say about this. She said. The two of them jumped upon hearing their names, snapped out of their minor stupor. Oh, right. Sorry, Weiss. We were just a bit distracted by. Well, Ironwood began, before sighing. Just look at that huntress. That armor and weapon is absolutely ridiculous. She has a giant rabbit head on her head. He said incredulously. She looks like a magical girl from an anime. She even has a wand. Winter sighed, facepalming. You guys know the drill at this point. Rosara said. I mean, even if it's kind of a jerk to the Ejiyurasu, you can't deny it's pretty awesome. John admitted. Yeah, it is pretty badass, with all its spikes in just the right places. And it's got some epic powers. Yang agreed. And it is impressive that it can command its own army. And as long as it stays in that tower, I suppose it isn't that bad. Ironwood added. I wish it didn't use the Guanzorumu to do its bidding and go into danger for it. But yeah, it's still such a cool monster. RWBY finally gave in as well. I can't agree. It's basically just a tyrant using them as slaves. Pyrrha said. Exactly. Rage thought he was being too harsh by calling them slaves, but I say he was right on the money. It took so much from them while giving nothing back, there is no way you can call that symbiotic. Blake agreed. Right. It's either slavery or at the very least extortion, considering it could kill them if they don't listen, or even if they do sometimes. Velvet added angrily. However, RWBY began to think about something. So, Katana? Obviously, we don't want Guanzorumu and Remnant, but can we at least get a Guanzorumu? I mean, they usually keep to themselves and are timid on their own, right? So they probably wouldn't hurt anybody. She tried to reason with the ice demon. Katana held her chin in thought at this. I suppose you do make good points. As long as they don't group up to be a problem or have a master to lead them, they're probably one of the safest options. She admitted, before closing her eyes and giving a small nod. Alright. They're on the list of remnant monsters. She admitted. Yes. All the animal lovers cheered, RWBY in particular rushing over and hugging the main hostess. So, what's next? Yang asked. Well, Sai just made another video. Get ready, because the story behind this one is almost as massive as the monster itself. It's time to turn up the heat. Because Zora Magdaros is next. Katana declared, starting the video.